Let's get on with the show.
Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children. That's the last thing we want to do. That's a direct order. Do it now.
He's been put down, ripped off, cut open. Now he's unleashed. The American insurgency starts now. This is Rusty Humphries, Rebellion Radio.
Hello, welcome. It is the Rusty Humphries Rebellion. My name is Rusty Humphries. Welcome to the program. We sure love it that you're here. Make sure you check in. Let me know who you are, where you're watching from, where you're deplorable from. We have the left in full-on hate mode right now, and nothing will get in their way. They don't care. They don't want to know the truth. They just want to hate. That's all they want to do. And so tonight we're going to show some of their hate. We're going to expose their hate. We are going to let people know we get it. We understand what they're doing. We understand their hatred. We understand their idiocy. We understand their childishness. And we're going to expose it. And we'll do it every night, every day. We don't fall for their tricks. See, the biggest thing a leftist can do is call you a racist. That's the best they got. Whether there's anything to hold to back up that statement doesn't matter. If you disagree with the left, with the alt left, and let's make some distinctions here. We are not talking about classical liberals. We're talking about, and classical liberal is somebody that you can talk to, you may disagree with, but you can have a conversation and it's okay. But not with today's alt-left. If you don't fall in lockstep, you are to be destroyed. Your career is to be destroyed. Your chance of making a livelihood is to be destroyed. Now, if you are on the left, you can say and do anything and it doesn't matter. I mean, if you're a lefty, if you're a Democrat, they will protect you to the ends of the earth. Remember that? Clinton Gore, 92, there's the Confederate flag. Jimmy Carter, he's using the Confederate flag too. Oh, they love Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton, don't they? Why don't they go after those guys? Why don't they tear down the Jimmy Carter Center, maybe? Or the Clinton presidential library. I mean, if they're going to go all in, let's go all in. Let's take a look here. Let's check in really fast. And by the way, if you are watching, we appreciate it. I would ask you to please go and share this video. We got some good stuff tonight. So if you haven't shared the video yet, looks like my head's up a little bit. There we go. Let's give me a little headroom there. Maybe a little to the side this way. Sorry about that. Donald is checking in from Virginia, where now our governor is calling for the removal of all monuments on Monument Avenue in Richmond. Wow. Pam is from Indiana. Elizabeth says, my heart is hurting tonight. Please save our history, Virginia. Yeah. You know, one of the things that bothered me today, on top of all of the hate speech that I've been witnessing and watching and the false lies coming out of the Democrat Party and coming out of the media, I think one thing that really bothered me is that people are saying, yeah, if you're watching shows like Rusty Humphries, you're putting comments on, you're racist too. Your comments are racist is what they're saying. I don't see anything racist about your comments. There's always one or two jackasses. Usually those people are from the left, too. Teresa's there. Thank you for sharing this. David says, let's see here. Lots of check-ins today. Thank you. I appreciate that. David says, yeah, where's it going to stop? Are we going to now have to remove any of the statues in the Capitol? Then remove any mention of their names in our history books. What about street names, school names? The names that all our history have been written about. We might as well restart from the beginning. What other statues are we going to remove just because another sort of race doesn't like it? List goes on and on. What about Washington, D.C.? Are we going to have to change the name of our capital? George Washington had slaves. Thomas Jefferson had slaves. How far do you want to take it to remove the history? And again, nobody is saying that, and let's be real clear, again and again and again. And how many times does Trump have to say it? Again, I don't just sit around and support Donald Trump for everything he says. If he says something wrong, I'll say it. If he says something right, I'll say it. You know, the media all day long, yeah, Donald Trump, he walked back his comments. He didn't say enough. No, he said both sides in Virginia were idiots. I'm paraphrasing here, and he's right. The KKK, bunch of morons, bunch of cousin-loving, child-rearing, toothless idiots. But the Antifa are thugs and criminals and haters. And they are the fascists. Because a fascist is somebody who, if you don't agree with them, they will destroy you. They are the fascists in the streets. Some great videos have come out the past 24 hours. Here's one. Let's just check out what this lady has to say.
America. What the hell? This newfound trend of violent riots is the perfect picture of just how many Americans are taking the divide and conquer bait to a new extreme, and it is absolutely ridiculous. I don't care if you call yourself a white nationalist or a member of Antifa. There are a few basic principles that both of your gangs seem to be missing out on. Let's be clear here. Harming someone because they don't share your skin color or your ideology is wrong. Destroying property that doesn't belong to you is also wrong. And lastly, tearing down historical monuments does nothing to erase history. We have the right to protest in this country, but every time you turn a peaceful protest into a violent riot, you are only helping to ensure that the police state will continue to grow. Now, you may think that that's not a bad thing, but did you realize that in Charlottesville, as soon as the protests began to turn violent, the police were ordered to stand down? As with evidence last weekend, violent riots aren't only good for the police state, they're also great for the media. Did you notice that the terrible impending nuclear war we were about to get into with North Korea suddenly received very little coverage when compared to the crazy clashes in Virginia? I'm not going to say that racism doesn't exist, because it does, but the fact is that as soon as the media starts pushing this divide and conquer technique in order to stir up public rage, that is when you should start paying attention. There is nothing your government wants you to focus on more than protests like the one in Charlottesville. I mean, can you imagine if thousands of Americans came together to protest something their government was actually doing that was harming them? You know, like killing thousands of innocent civilians in the Middle East? It's not about left versus right, and it's not about white versus black. At the end of the day, it's about tyranny versus liberty and the state versus you. But the problem is that until Americans really begin to see what the true battle is here, we will only continue to see more division and destruction. So I would encourage you, if this message really resonated with you, take the time to share it with your family and friends. We are seeing this divide and conquer agenda play out here in the United States, and it's time for us to begin standing up and speaking out against it. As always, you can also follow me on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook, and if you want to see more videos like this one, be sure to subscribe.
Okay, she did a very good job. Her name is Rachel Blevins. I've never seen her before, but I thought that was a very well said piece. And I want to know from your point of view, do you, is it fair to say there is moral equivalence between the KKK and Antifa? Now let's take a look at what Don Lemon, of course, he's a journalist. He's a straight down the middle journalist on CNN. Let's take a look at what he had to say yesterday about Antifa and the moral equivalency between them and the KKK.
A group that is a protest group, two protest groups. Yes, they're both protest groups, and they're talking about Antifa or Antifa, however you want to pronounce it, calling them the alt-left. Well, that group protests fascism, so they were there protesting fascism. Maybe their tactics weren't exactly right. All groups like that, political groups, rights groups, protest groups, it's messy. But there is a difference between
Can we start off with, it's his definition or their definition of who's bad or who's good. Now, again, the KKK, the Klan, not a fan of. I don't know anybody in the Klan. I wouldn't support anybody in the Klan. I would condemn anybody in the Klan or any other racial hate group. But see, there's the point. Any other racial hate group. Any group that hates based on race. You got white privilege, Rusty. I don't know what you're talking about. I promise you, my life has not been all peaches and cream. It's been hard. And I bet your life has been hard too. And that's the thing. You know, we all have tough times and tough roads to hold. And, you know, difficult things going on in our lives. But to just sit around and blame all of your problems because you don't think you're the right color or that you are being put down by somebody, it's wrong. Just like Don Lemon, this guy is a multi-millionaire. He's black and he's gay. Again, doesn't matter. But he's a guy that's sitting around at the top of the heap saying, yeah, I'm being kept down. How are you being kept down, Don Lemon? Nobody's keeping you down. So let's continue with his racist rant here, shall we?
Two groups. One is a Nazi white supremacist group. The other is a protest group protesting a political and a racist movement. Now, I'm not saying either of them, I'm not saying that group, all of their tactics were right, but they were there protesting hate in America. And in order to have this conversation, and Mr. President doesn't seem to be very aware of the history of this country. You have to be aware of the history of this country, and we have to discuss the history
well aware
of this country. And the history of this country is that it came out of racism. It came out of slavery. People who look like me did not come over on the Nina, the Pinta, or the Santa Maria. And those people who are there want to keep people like me enslaved. And that's why they were protesting. And to talk about the removal of monuments at Robert E. Lee High School, can you imagine having to go to a school that has the name of your oppressor on it, or walking into a building and seeing a...
I don't know, there's a bunch of buildings they want to put up with Barack Obama on it. He sent the IRS after me and a bunch of friends. He's the only guy that's ever oppressed me. They can't give Barack Obama enough awards, but... Anyway, we'll continue.
Confederate flag or a Confederate flag hanging at a government building. Imagine if you're a Jewish person in Germany and you had to go to Hitler High School or Goebbels Elementary School or middle school.
Well, see, here's the difference of that, Don. They didn't tear down Auschwitz. It's still there. You could still tour those horrible, horrible places because we don't want to forget. We want to learn the lessons from history. You want to whitewash the lessons from history. You want to forget the lessons of history. And when you do that, they will be repeated, which is what Antifa is. They are the repeating of a bad history. They're just like the brown shirts of Nazi Germany. Yes, I said it. Antifa is a bad, bad group. Why is it that people in the media are standing up for them? They came armed. They were throwing M80s at people. You know what happens if an M80 goes off in your face or your ear, or a water balloon full of urine, or a Coke can that's full of cement, or rocks being thrown at people's heads? That's not okay. That's not okay. And that's not freedom of speech. But let's go back to the victim, Don Lemon.
That would be completely offensive to you on the deepest level. And that's how people of color feel in this country when we have to deal with figures like Robert E. Lee, like Confederate flags. It's no different than flying a swastika. It is insulting. The president is ignorant of history. Okay, he does not know context. He should be ashamed of himself.
Okay, this is news. Don Lemon's supposed to be a newscaster. That's news? No, that's opinion. And it's a lousy opinion, and it's a slanted opinion, and it's a racist opinion. Don Lemon, you are on the alt-left. You're a racist. I'll say it again. Don Lemon, you're on the alt-left, and you're a racist. Again, the idea of why you wouldn't say, hey, those people on the left, they're wrong. You don't come and try to hurt and kill people. That's not freedom of speech. All right, let's go back to the unbiased. I'm not going to play much more, but the unbiased journalist, Don Lemon from CNN.
He should go back to school and get an elementary education on how this country started and about protest groups and how this country works and who he represents.
Yeah,
let me promise you. Let
me promise you one thing, Don Lemon. Donald Trump, again, whether I am happy with him or not right now, Donald Trump way smarter than you. You, Don Lemon, are a dumbass. You are. You, Don Lemon, you're a dumbass. Now let's continue with this video. Here we go.
What about the alt-left that came charging at the, as you say, the alt-right? Do they have any semblance of guilt?
This is Let
me ask you this. What about the fact they came charging with clubs in their hands, swinging clubs? Do they have any problem? I think they do. So, as far as I'm concerned, that was a horrible, horrible day. Wait a minute. I'm not finished. Fake news. That was a horrible day. I will tell you something. I watched those very closely, much more closely than you people watched it. And you have you had a group on one side that was bad, and you had a group on the other side that was also very violent. And nobody wants to say that, but I'll say it right now. You had a group on the other side that came charging in without a permit, and they were very, very violent.
Make America great again. Make America great again.
Okay, that was by Mark. Mark, thank you. Great job in the video. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And by the way, you can find him on Twitter, Immigrant for Trump, at Immigrant for Trump. Tina writes, and by the way, I appreciate you guys commenting. I want to see your thumbs ups, your hearts, whatever. Your comments here. I want you to share the video if you would. If you're listening to the podcast, The Rusty Humphries Rebellion, please let people know about the podcast. Please subscribe to it. Tina says, we should love one another, but I bet you won't say this. Of course I'd say that. That's my whole point. My whole point is that I don't support the KKK. Nor should anybody else. Their stance on only one race being superior and every other race being bad, it should be condemned. Same as the violence and the lies and the rhetoric that are coming out of the alt-left movement and the Antifa movement. These are, it was all Russia, Russia, Russia for how long? When that isn't sticking, now they're going to make something else up and something else up. It doesn't matter what Donald Trump says. He has to be destroyed. And by the way, it's not just on the left that wants to do that. It is so-called Republicans, but they're the rhinos, the ones that we never trusted in the first place. Tammy wants to know, why the hell were these groups allowed to have all these weapons? Good question. Glenn says, Rusty, help being called a racist all day long. Yeah. That's what they do, Glenn. It's the only trick in the book they have. They can't win on reason. They can't win on logic. They have to lie to get their points across. They have to make up facts and figures. And then when that doesn't work, or just to save time, you're a racist. And it's the ultimate thing today. It's the ultimate card to throw down. You throw out the race card, and people back up. Let's see here. What gives these governors and mayors the right to remove these statues? Shouldn't it be a ballot vote of the people? Now, see, that's the thing that's so interesting is, whenever government gets in a real rush to do something, it's usually wrong. So the question is, why is there such a real rush to do this? That's a great question. What's the hurry? If it's been there for 100 years or so, let's talk about it. Why is it being done in the middle of the night? And that's what's happening all across the country. These things are being taken down without any vote, without anybody talking about it. Story today out of Baltimore with just that in the headline. Check this out.
Good morning. I'm Megan Pringle in Wyman Park, Dell, and Charles Village. The statues of Stonewall Jackson and General Lee stood behind me yesterday, this morning, in the dark hours of the morning. They were taken away, removed with a crane, and then put on a flatbed truck. This was something that we were not made aware of until viewers started calling our newsroom in the middle of the night, telling us that the Confederate statues around Baltimore were coming down. So we came down here, and indeed that was the case. This has been something that the city has debated for a couple of years with many different ideas about what to do with those statues. Councilman Brandon Scott had suggested at some point melting them down, and Mayor Catherine Pugh had suggested perhaps moving them to Hagerstown, to a Confederate graveyard there. So we don't know where the monuments went. We do know that they are gone. We're talking about all four of them in the city, not in addition to the one that was behind me, but also the statues that were in other areas in the city, in Mount Vernon, the one of Roger Taney, as well as the Confederate Women's Monument. So we will keep reaching out to the mayor's office and see if we hear back about what happens now, because that is the big question. In the meantime, back to you in the studio.
All right, thanks.
So we're just now, we're the government officials are just taking statues down. By the way, nice Black Lives Matter spray paint on the statue. You know, I saw a meme today. You may call me racist for criticizing Obama's failing policies. You may call me sexist for not supporting Hillary's corruption. An Islamophobe for naming radical Islamic terrorists. A xenophobe for choosing to secure our borders. A hate monger for denying amnesty to illegal aliens. A warmonger for supporting our troops and veterans. A fascist for believing we need to restore law and order. A teabagger for demanding our constitutional rights. You may call me an isolationist for protecting our national sovereignty. You may call me a right-wing fanatic for criticizing big government, and you can call me deplorable for supporting Donald J. Trump. But you may not silence me. Is that how you're feeling right now? Do you agree with that meme? Do you think it's on mark or over the top? Jeff Kuhner is a great friend of mine. Fantastic columnist, has an incredible radio show as well in WRKO in Boston. He wrote this today. Is President Trump engaging in moral equivalence? This is the charge being leveled against him by the liberal media and the Democrats and establishment Republicans in the wake of the violence in Charlottesville. But the simple answer is no. Simple answer is no. Yes, Trump's initial statement on Saturday afternoon condemning the hatred on many sides has been denounced by the political and the media class for not signaling out the vile white nationalists who organized the rally. Furthermore, his fiery and brave comments at Tuesday's press conference, in which he insisted that both sides bear responsibility for the chaos and mayhem, has triggered another round of anti-Trump vitriol. There is, however, only one problem. He's right. It takes two to tango. In Charlottesville, white supremacists deliberately chose the progressive university town because they knew it would provoke a backlash. What the media is refusing to report is that the alt-left is also organized a massive counter-demonstration. The number of counter-protesters vastly outnumbered the neo-Nazi protesters. Black Lives Matter, Antifa, anarchists, communists, campus radicals, all of these violent hate groups descended upon Charlottesville itching for a fight. Many of them had sticks and clubs and knives and helmets and homemade flamethrowers. In fact, local reporters admitted Antifa thugs threw the first punch. The alt-left wanted blood to be spilled on the streets, and they got it. Which begs the question. Why is the media determined to blame only one side? Despite the repugnant views, white nationalists did have a lawful permit to hold their rally. The alt-left activists didn't. Had the counter-protesters not arrived armed to the teeth, and if the police had done their job instead of standing down and watching the mayhem unfold, there likely would have been no violence. Heather Heyer may have been probably alive today. But the reason is obvious. For years, the liberal media has been coddling left-wing domestic terror groups such as Black Lives Matter and Antifa. BLM members openly call for the murder of whites and cops. A BLM supporter gunned down 5 police officers in Dallas. Another one assassinated 2 New York cops in Brooklyn. A Black Lives Matter thug have incited massive riots in Ferguson, Baltimore, and Milwaukee. Antifa terrorists seek the overthrow of the American government. Antifa activists have attacked and beaten Trump supporters and conservatives, looted businesses, banks, and ATMs. They've destroyed private property, smashed cars, and started violent riots in Berkeley, Oakland, and many college campuses. Yet, Black Lives Matter is publicly praised by nearly every Democrat and liberal journalist in the country. Obama himself not only lauded them, he invited BLM members to attend policy events in the White House. This is akin to Trump inviting David Duke and Richard Spencer to have gab fests on race relations. The political media establishment would rightly go berserk. Under Obama, however, the Black Lives Matter movement was warmly embraced, even celebrated. On Antifa, the Democrats and the mainstream media have either rationalized and excused their thuggish behavior or simply ignored it, hoping that by not discussing the rampaging bands of anarchists, the American people will somehow pretend they don't exist. The establishment media cannot condemn the alt-left because they have become part of its larger movement. A major reason so many counter-protests were in Charlottesville is that since the November election, they have been told by CNN and MSNBC and the New York Times that Trump wants to erect an authoritarian neo-fascist regime. So when actual white supremacists show up to hold a rally, the left believes it must engage in hand-to-hand combat with Trump's supposed brown shirts. You see, you repeat a lie often enough and it becomes accepted as true. Having helped spawn the alt-left, the media cannot disown it any more than socialists can abandon class warfare or globalism. It's hardwired into their ideological DNA. Identity politics is slowly destroying America. For years, liberals and Democrats have perpetrated divisions along race, ethnicity, gender, and sexual orientation. Their goal is to foster political tribalism in order to attain power. Like the ancient Romans, it is a strategy of divide and rule. They have, however, opened up Pandora's box, one that threatens to ultimately tear apart America. For when a society, in the name of multiculturalism, promotes black nationalism, Hispanic separatism, radical feminism, and is obsessed with it constantly expanding LGBTQ identity politics, in other words, when everything is seen through the lens of belonging to a particular tribe, the inevitable result will be white nationalism. As Isaac Newton understood, an action always creates an equal reaction. By the way, I hope Jeff is wrong about that with the white nationalism. The real story about Charlottesville is not Trump's words. It's something deeper and much more ominous. The tribal violence may represent America's future, and the sad thing is, Trump seems to be the only one who actually realizes it. Shane thinks they're destroying America. Norbert says Obama started all of this with his praising of thugs and not police and first responders. I really don't remember things like this before Obama. Brad says, I can't wait for the Colin Kaepernick parade. Let's see how many cars get turned over and businesses vandalized. It'll be called a protest, not a riot. Dan says, many of those leftists don't know how lucky they are. They think they're entitled to everything. We need to get to the basic morals that founded this country. Linda says, white nationalists is the new buzzword for white supremacist. I am a white and a nationalist, she says. That does not make me a racist or a bigot. It makes me a person who wants to enforce our immigration laws and protect our Constitution and Bill of Rights. But Big Brother, Democrat Party, she writes, wants open borders, massive Muslim invasion, and blanket amnesty for all illegals because that's what the masters, who are the ultra-rich globalists of the Democrat Party, want. Mike says, those scumbag white supremacists won because they got media attention they wanted, because the other scumbag group showed up. Stay away, and all would have had their own inbreed selves and tiki torches with no audience or media. Sometimes less is more. I agree with that. Susanna says, I believe it's gone past being Democrats or Republicans. That's blurred vision now. We, the people who want our rights protected, our jobs back, our infrastructure repaired, money staying at home to care for our people and families, not more and more and more illegal immigrants to support while we struggle to put food on our tables. And God forbid a loved one falls ill. Let's come together, people. It's not about our skin color or gay or straight. The elite group, Illuminatis, are behind all of this since the beginning of time. You're playing right into their hands. Linda says, liberals couldn't say Islamic terrorists. Now they can't say alt-left terrorists. Yeah, that one gets them. That's why I'm going to start saying it every single day. They are alt-left terrorists. Alt-left terrorists. Absolutely. Now, here's one. This one's interesting. You know, I grew up in Seattle. Actually, a suburb of Seattle, about 20 miles south of Seattle, right in between Seattle and Tacoma, on I-5, a little town called Des Moines, Washington. And I never really got downtown. Downtown, when I was growing up, was like a million miles away. We maybe, as a family, would go downtown to the Space Needle like once every 2 or 3 years. That was a huge trip. Now today, it's like I drive that to go to, Subway. It's it's a different time. But there's a statue in part of Seattle that was not there when I was growing up. And I've heard about it, and I'm still shocked it's there. There's a story on an old TV station I used to hang out at, Q13 Fox in Seattle. Check out this story. So these people are protesting the statue of Lenin. Alt-left equals hate. Let's tear this down. Tear it down.
Tells people about the statue. Show me where it says that it's said.
One says Lenin is Hitler. 100 million dead are the signs. So what you're seeing is this is a live feed.
But you know me. You came here to someone who's standing against 100 million people. Did I say you're about hate? Did I say you're about hate? Did I say you're about hate?
Okay, hold on. Do you see that? Do you see the candy ass wussy liberal on the left of the orange shirt? You're being aggressive. You're being aggressive. No, you came in and started getting in that guy's face, Mr. Alt-Left, and he's trying to explain himself of why he doesn't like Stalin or Lenin, and that's a good guy to not like. And I can't imagine anybody thinking that Lenin is a good dude. Nobody. I mean, guy killed 100 million people. But watch and look at the commies, the alt-left, as they're trying to defend the Lenin statue.
About hate, not the other way around. And I came up to discuss something with you, and then you called me names. And called me names. It's loud right here, and my voice may be loud. I came up here to have a discussion, and you called me names. You're right here. The whole thing is recorded, buddy. You can say whatever you want. It's loud over here. I came over here, and I tried a conversation with you. You heard what I had to say. You didn't have an argument, and they said I was about hate. You called me names. Typical leftist hate.
Okay. The feed is a little bit bad here. I was looking at some of the comments, and let's see here. There were some, pull them up here. I don't know if I can find it. I remember seeing some comments of people that were supporting it. They're saying, Lenin didn't do anything bad. Why do you want to take it down? Oh, here we go. Somebody paid $150,000 to ship that back from Russia to preserve it. He thought it would be safe in America. Uh-huh. Anyway, I guess the question I have for you is, do you think, hey, if we're going to take down Civil War statues. I would think the first thing you'd take down is the one of Lenin. Don't you think? Darren says lefties probably think it's John Lennon. Yeah. That's funny. Let's see. Any other good stories we got up there? Oh. We have Republicans. Oops. Boy, I'm going dark today. I'm sorry about that. Pushing buttons aren't working. Republicans are speaking out against President Trump. What do you think of these people? If you would please comment, share the video. I want your comments and your thoughts on this story here, where again, President Trump is not getting any kind of a break. And do you think he should, or do you think he deserves this kind of nonstop attacks? Check it out.
Increasingly isolated as the backlash to these remarks a day ago builds.
Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say.
Trump equating neo-Nazis and white supremacists marching through Charlottesville with outbursts of anger from counter-protesters opposing their white nationalist ideology.
Wow.
The president's comments.
I'm sorry.
I got
to stop the video. Why can't I stop the video? Just the way that was reported. Well, these people were just trying to peaceably go in there and stop those mean people. Okay, they were mean people, but they came armed and looking for war. But let's go back to the non-biased journalism of CNN. I want to take it back a little bit and listen to the bias in their reporting. Here we go.
From counter-protesters opposing their white nationalist ideology. The president's comments swiftly drew rebukes from GOP leaders in Washington, former presidents, and Wall Street executives. Business leaders, including the CEOs of Campbell and 3M, began fleeing the president, quitting the White House Advisory Council.
Now, see, I would like to know how many of them did that because of their ideology. I mean, maybe it's okay if business people are Democrats. That's fine. But how many of them also did it because of fear of retribution from consumers for just working with the president? If you have anything to do with this president, they want you destroyed. They want you out of work. They don't want you to ever make a living again. They want you banished from society if you have anything to do with this president. Back to the story.
On Tuesday, Trump insisted he had plenty of CEOs vying to replace those departing. By Wednesday, he scrapped the councils altogether, saying, rather than putting pressure on the business people of the Manufacturing Council and Strategy and Policy Forum, I am ending both. Thank you all. Meanwhile, Presidents George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush offered pointed words in a joint statement, saying, America must always reject racial bigotry, anti-Semitism, and hatred in all forms.
Okay, stop right there, Bushies. Stop right there. When did Trump not say that? I mean, let me take it back to that comment. Let's take a look at the comment. Let me just take it back here for a second. And, okay, America must always reject racial bigotry, anti-Semitism, and hatred in all forms. Is that not exactly what Trump said yesterday? See, they don't want to report that. They only want to report Trump said something wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Donald Trump, and got good news today. I have personally, I don't know what happened. I was messing around the kitchen in the White House, and I came up with a cure to cancer. It's true. It works. I had doctors look at it. It actually cures cancer. And they would go, yeah, thanks. Why didn't you do Alzheimer's first? I mean, that's how bad it is right now. Let's see more of this story from CNN.
Forms. Even as Trump shed supporters, the White House doubled down, releasing a set of talking points declaring the president was entirely correct. Both sides of the violence in Charlottesville acted inappropriately and bear some responsibility. And insisting Trump has been a voice for unity and calm. Today, Vice President Mike Pence was one of the few Republicans to stand by Trump, though he avoided answering a question on whether he agreed with the president's statements that there were very fine people on both sides.
I spoke at length about this heartbreaking situation on Sunday night in Columbia. And I stand with the president, and I stand by those words.
As for the president, he recognized the memorial service held for Heather Heyer, who was mowed down and killed by an alleged white supremacist in Charlottesville, with a tweet. Memorial service today for beautiful and incredible Heather Heyer, a truly special young woman. She will be long remembered by all. Trump has not announced any plans to travel to Charlottesville. When asked about it Tuesday, he used the opportunity to tout a Trump-branded winery.
I own actually one of the largest wineries in the United States. It's in Charlottesville.
Boy, there's nothing he can do that won't tick them off. Nothing! By the way...
I have a little bit of a design secret.
By the way, I remember, I don't know if you remember, a lot of people don't, that the World Trade Center was attacked twice. 9/11, as you remember, but before that, I believe it was about 1993. I'll have to look at the date, but I think I'm pretty close. Somebody came in there with car bombs and tried to bring the buildings down, and we later found out it was Muslim terrorists, the Blind Sheik. Bill Clinton never went to that site. He drove past it a whole bunch of times, never went there. Oh, but I was obsessed with Osama bin Laden. I was obsessed with Muslim terrorism. I was obsessed with trying to stop that stuff. You know, again, just tell the truth. That's all I want. I want the truth. If Democrats are right and Republicans were wrong on something, great. Fine. I just want the truth. I'm so sick and tired of the lies. And then I saw a story of, let me see if I can pull it up. There's a story of Republicans that are now speaking out against Donald Trump. Where is this? Oh, here we go. Let me bring it up here. Now, this isn't the same story. Shepard Smith, by the way, man, was he lousy today. Well, I mean, he is just out of control lousy. Shepard Smith, I'm really tired of that guy. But I was going to do this here. I'll let you see how lousy he was today. He's just so smug, so full of himself, so left-wingy. Oh, I can't play audio on this one, sorry. So I'm not going to. Stop, I say, stop. Stop. It won't stop. Sorry. Anyway, I was going to, oops. I was going to read the story of who the Republicans were that came out and spoke out against him. And I read it, and it was like, before I read it, I said, let me guess. It'll be McCain. It'll be his boyfriend, Lindsey Graham. And maybe Mitch McConnell. And then I don't know who else. And the first thing it was, Lindsey Graham. Right after that, his boyfriend, John McCain. And then Marco Rubio, which, let's not forget the little Marco comments that Trump did. So this is all payback. Let's see. Jack has written, Rusty, I have the good fortune to have been in the U.S. for the first year of the Obama administration and for the first part of the Trump administration. And boy, do I notice a difference. 8 years ago, people didn't like Obama, and they said that they were watching the country implode in slow motion, and there were no signs for people looking for work. Today, people might not like Trump, but are loving how the country is turning around. Plus, there are help wanted signs all over the place. Interesting anecdotal evidence. Thank you, Jack. Glenn says he thinks Coke is next. They're going to go after Coca-Cola next, maybe. Shane says CNN lies, lies, lies. Mary thinks Soros must have gotten to those CEOs. Peggy says, you will all be sorry. Get real. We have a narcissistic maniac sitting in the White House. And you don't think Obama was a narcissist? You don't think Bill Clinton was a narcissist? Sweetheart, they're all narcissists. To make president of the United States, they're all narcissists. Do I think Trump is worse than the other guys? No. I think Obama was worse, and I'll tell you why. Because he hid it so well. Those are the guys you have to watch out for. And he did quite a bit of damage. Do you disagree? Am I wrong? You agree with Peggy? that Trump is a narcissist that's going to be getting us real problems? Let's see here. Eileen, Rusty, I agree with you. It's getting real bad. I'm probably talking about Fox News, yeah. Pamela says those Republicans are traitors to the president. Carolyn says Fox News can't be depended on to have the real news anymore. It's very sad. Kevin says alt equals alt-left terrorists. Russell, I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. Thank you. Glenn said if Trump had cured cancer, the alt-left would protest he was taking away business from the Grim Reaper. Pamela thinks Billy Clinton is part of the New World Order. Joseph says, thank God I live in a small town in the hills of eastern Kentucky. We all get along, black and white. We just want to work, raise our families, praying our country comes together. Yeah, me too. Anything else here? Susanna, North Korea isn't going to do a thing. China should be the concern. Smoke screens. Fear our own government who is busy doing dirty behind the scenes. How come Soros can pay for the evil he's hired and get away with this so much? So sad. Yes, lies everywhere. Lyndon wants to know, when was the last time Democrats were actually right about anything? Tucker Carlson, Glenn said was right on, yeah. Denny says, how come people with common sense understand what the president was saying? Because that's right, because we actually use our God-given brain that knows right from wrong. All things given by God, taught by parents, at least most parents before the millennial era, we know the truth. All you Democrat liberal wussies need to go. Okay. Myrna says, these two Bushes are mad about a lot of things. Their brother Jeb is not president. They are against this president. And you're right, they have been from the beginning. Neither were great presidents. And then she says there's a conspiracy theory that George H.W. Bush had something to do with JFK's assassination. Yeah, I don't know about that one. I would, if you were saying LBJ, there was something smelly about LBJ there. But Jerry says, Rusty, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Many of us have flown on 757 airliners. Big, huh? How big was the hole in the Pentagon? Did one see any recovery of bodies or aircrafts in the devastation? Check it out. Secretary Rumsfeld stated that $2.4 trillion cannot be accounted for at the Pentagon on September 10th. I never talked to him about money, but I've talked to Secretary Rumsfeld about 9/11 at least 5 times, maybe more. I've been in the Pentagon on a 9/11 and went with him to the location. I have seen his scrap of the plane that he has on his desk. He got injured. He went and helped people. I do believe that a plane hit the Pentagon. I don't believe in that conspiracy at all. I'm not a big conspiracy guy at all, but that was my take. Pamela says, I think I'll move to Boise, Idaho. Nobody hates Boise. That's not true. A lot of people say that's where a lot of Klan people are. Kevin says, don't take your eyes away from Venezuela. Oh, I'm watching Venezuela. I'm watching them. I'm not. Tina says, I knew you wouldn't say it. I did say it. You said that we wouldn't get along? I said that about 10 minutes ago, Tina. Or is there more I've got to say to make you happy? I believe it was like 10 minutes ago. And by the way, Tina, I got 800 comments on here, literally. But you said, I know you won't say that we should all get along and love each other. Of course we should. Of course. That's silly that you would even suggest that we shouldn't get along. The problem is that the world is full of evil. There are bad people in this world, and they do need to be stopped. I don't believe the way Antifa handles things is the right way. And it's a bunch of children running around with masks on because they don't want to be seen. They don't want anybody to know what they're doing. If it was so grand and so wonderful and such a history-saving moment, then why are you hiding? They're hiding because they know it's wrong. They're hiding because they know they're in trouble. Okay. Anyway, there's a lot of the comments here. Thank you very much. I will read some more of the comments after the show. I do want to remind you of my great book. It is called 7 Ways to Win Political Debates with Your Liberal Family and Friends and Still Keep Them as Family and Friends. It is a great book, and I would really appreciate if you went to Amazon and got it. It's on sale. I'm literally practically giving it away. How do those two go together? Anyway, it's like, I don't remember the exact price, but it's like $4 for this paperback. And I promise it's going to go up on September 1st. The ebook is like $3 and the audiobook is like $5. I'm basically giving away, but there's great information in here. It's also funny. It's interesting. You'll learn something. Please, we're not charging for this. We're just doing this on Facebook Live. So this is a way that we help feed the family. So if you do this would be a great way that you can support the show. Again, 7 ways to win political debates with your liberal family and friends. And so keep them as family and friends. I think you're going to like it. Another great product I'd love for you to check out. It's called Australian Dream Arthritis Pain Relief Cream. Australian Dream is real medicine. You put it on right where it hurts and, well, the pain goes away. And if it doesn't, well, you can use the whole jar and return it and get your money back. Doesn't smell, doesn't burn, it's not greasy, and it just works. Go check that out if you would, please. Did you like and share the show today? I sure hope you do. Another great sponsor of the Rusty Humphries Rebellion is Wax RX. Wax RX is the same kind of stuff that your doctor has to help remove earwax. And there's nothing worse than earwax in your ears. It's just awful. And this does the job for a fraction of the cost that your doctor will charge you. Another great product, DerMend. DerMend is a fragile skin moisturizing formulating cream. They also have a number of other creams you can get at Walmart and Walgreens. This is great for our senior friends. Your skin isn't as moist as it used to be, and this will help. Go to DerMend. Find DerMend online, or Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, and you can find it there. And don't forget my podcast, The Rusty Humphries Rebellion. It is there. iTunes, Stitcher. Anywhere you can find a great podcast, please go check it out. Glenn is waiting to see what's going on in Philadelphia. There's some stuff going on in Philadelphia. We pray that nothing bad is going to happen there. Let's see. Christina got the book. She loved it. Thank you. Someone wanted to know, do we think that... Oh, Lynn says, I got that stuff. It works. Great. Thank you. Someone also asked, is there going to be a civil war, Rusty? God, I hope not. I am supporting our country, and I believe that we can get through this. We just have to all work together and try to get along. Can't we just get along? All right, we'll see you tomorrow. We're here every night, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West. You can also find it 24 hours a day at rustylive.com. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and rustylive.com. May God bless you. May God bless America. Thank you for hanging out with me. My name is Rusty Humphries, and this is the Rusty Humphries Rebellion.